Hey guys, Brett here, directors. Good afternoon. Hey, thank you for joining today's live event. So today I wanted to talk about home inspections, kind of what they are, why you want to do one, how it ties into mortgage and negotiations on a purchase. So guys, ultimately, what is a home inspection? Now, this is different than a home appraisal. So the home inspection, quite honestly, on most loan programs is not a requirement of us lenders. I think there's only one special first-time buyers program where we want to require a home inspection, but in any case, we don't actually need a copy of it or to see it. This is for you guys as buyers or potential buyers to protect your investment, make sure you know what you're getting yourselves into. So ultimately, guys, a home inspection, you have a professional licensed inspector go out there, they're reviewing the property on like the structural basis, mechanical basis, and like health and safety basis. So doing a really deep dive on the property itself. So here's kind of some critical things they're going to go through. They're going to look at very key systems such as, roof, foundation, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, all of the above. So as they go through it, they're going to help to identify, are there issues? Are things not to code? Are they, unsafe? Is there a health, concern on it? Or do they just need repair, right? So, kind of diving through all those different components of the house. So you would typically inspect an inspector to be out there, 3-4 hours. They're crawling on the roof. They're crawling through the crawl space. They're testing outlets. They're checking faucets and sinks and, operational. So it's very, very in depth, which is great. As we think about buying a home as a major investment, and a huge asset or expense, we want to make sure we're going in eyes wide open. Now, I always joke with clients, guys, buying a home is like buying a used car. There's always going to be a couple of scratches or dings or dents. That doesn't mean it's a terrible house or car in this analogy. We just want to make sure as we drive off the lot, the transmission's not going to fall out. So, I think that's the key piece, especially when I'm buying is, hey, I know what I'm getting into. There's not going to be some kind of major issue that's health or safety or going to cause a significant unexpected cost. So I think it's getting clarity around that. So making sure there's not these hidden issues. So a couple of things that we commonly see. Now, again, we're not looking at this. I'm speaking more as, just talking to clients or myself as I'm buying rentals. You may see, leaks, things that need plumbing updates, sometimes electrical issues, typically not, I don't find a lot of major electrical ones, but you can check to see there. But a lot of times just things that aren't quite up to code, which is still good to know and say, hey, there's a reason the code exists. Hey, we might want to get a contractor in there and update these few things. Potentially a big one could be structural concerns or mold. Obviously if there's mold in there, oftentimes we can't see that just walking in. So an inspector and equipment can call that out. That can be big. I mean, as far as health issues or the cost to remedy that can be pretty significant. If there's major foundation issues, again, can be a pretty significant cost. So I think those are some of the different things we see. Oftentimes it's very small things. Hey, the gutter's hanging, a railing's an inch too short. There's earthwood contact with a dirt outside is touching the siding. Very, very simple things. But again, good to know where it is. So typically what an inspector is going to do, guys, is go out to the property, be there for 4 or 5 hours. And typically it's normal for you as a buyer to be there. They can talk to you, kind of update you along the way, but they will put together a very detailed report. Now, how I've seen most inspectors do it is kind of page one, what are the major issues, if any? They're going to call it some big things to highlight. And then throughout the rest of it, they'll kind of go through and say, hey, as I inspected the HVAC, here's a couple of little notes I did. I recommend a cleaning or a service. So you'll kind of get a very, very detailed guide of every kind of system or component of the house. But that front couple pages normally is going to call it any huge concerns. So ultimately, why do we want to do this? So again, we mentioned number one, making sure you go in fully understanding what you're getting yourselves into. But number two is negotiations on a contract. So oftentimes, one of the main contingencies is an inspection contingency. So once you do that, you can come back to the seller and say, okay, based on my inspection, I want to either one, completely back out. Say there's just a major issue of concern, you can walk away. Number two, Mr. Seller, I want to request repairs. I want you to fix these few items of concern for us based on the inspection. Or number three, in lieu of repairs, I want you to credit us, lower the price, or give us a credit back in seller credit. Now, you can do a combination of those things too, but it gives you negotiating ability. So that's another big piece is, okay, I want to understand what am I getting myself into and how I can use this to negotiate proper. Now, sometimes anyone should think of it just trying to drive the seller down. It might be, hey, I'm trying to negotiate because I now have to fix X, Y, and Z that I maybe didn't expect to have to fix up front. So that's going to be the key piece for you guys. And ultimately, if you have to back out of a house because there is a major error, at least you know that up front versus buying it and having some big thing pop up unexpectedly. Now, one other quick thing I wanted to mention is you may have heard, especially in the COVID era or as homes are getting more competitive out there, sometimes people say, well, I waived my inspection. And I want to put some clarity around that. There is a couple details within that. One is sometimes a buyer may truly choose to never do an inspection. Now, I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it's important to do one, but I think what most times clients are alluding to, or when we talk about it, maybe is sometimes clients waive their inspection contingency. There's a difference here. What that means is they're saying, hey, I'm waiving the right to back out of the contract due to inspection. Now, why they would do that is oftentimes they do a pre-inspection, or the seller provides one, meaning they still looked at an inspection report or had an inspector go out ahead of their offer and looked at it. Because I do think it's important to either look at a seller provided inspection or to do your own upfront, even if you want to make your offer not subject to it. So I think, again, there's that clarity there is when someone or an agent potentially talks about waiving inspection, they're talking about typically the contingency, meaning instead of making your offer subject to an inspection, you do your inspection up front. You feel comfortable and say, okay, there's a couple of dings and scratches to fix, but I feel good about it. Therefore, I'm now going to make an offer no longer subject to an inspection because I've already done it. In both cases, the buyer is still having an inspection. They're still covering themselves and understanding what they're getting into. They're just a differentiating component of, do I make my offer subject to it? So I hope that provides some clarity on it. And that kind of gets into more negotiation tactics. But ultimately, an inspection is important, guys. This is a major, major purchase. One way or the other, you want to do one or make sure there's a seller provided one, regardless of how we structure the offer. So as always, any questions, feel free to reach out and